Welcome to the week one go-to session. So this is the first of 4 such sessions that we're going to hold this month. Although I just noticed that I made a mistake when I set up this schedule. It says meets 3 times. We meet 4 times, so I have to fix that date. But it's not an issue. If you clicked on the link to register for the session, you are set up for all the sessions this month. So even though I'll have to go back in and change this to 4 times. I guess I got the dates wrong. You'll automatically be registered for all 4 sessions. But anyway, welcome to week one. Welcome to English composition. I'm looking forward to working with you all month. We're going to go over the week one activities mostly, but before we do that, just some introductory stuff. Well, that's not me. I'm using someone else's slides. Okay, we kind of all work from the same set of slides, but I got these real quickly sent to me. So obviously that's not me. That's another instructor, a colleague of mine. You do have an introduction to me though. If you go to, I thought I had this open already. Okay, here, let me get to our class. Okay, so here we go. So you have a bunch of these getting started activities. Obviously, you registered for the lecture because you're here. Lectures are always recorded because not everybody can be here every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. So they are recorded for your convenience. The lecture recording will always be put in the 1.2 or the 2.2 or the 3.2 activity. Okay. So we have 2 people with us so far tonight, but if let's say in a future week you can't make it, don't worry. The lectures are recorded. It is a good sign that we have a couple people here. And of course, there will be people who do watch the recording. I do think that the lectures are helpful because if you can attend or watch the lectures every week, you will feel less lost. Okay. Um, to learn more about me, you can click on this activity here where you will see not only a little blurb about me and my background, but you can see my schedule. For example, Mondays are my work from home day. Pretty awesome, right? To work entirely from home from 1 p.m. to 9 p.m. You can see that I keep pretty late hours. I am a night owl, so I'm often up until 3 or 4 a.m. I wish I could say doing serious things, but it's usually marathon watching some television show. But yeah, I am a night owl. So I go to sleep very late. I wake up very late. So I drag myself in around 2 p.m. But as you can see, I'm here until 8 or 9 p.m. Right now, it's 7 p.m. here Eastern Time in Orlando, Florida. Beautiful sunny Orlando. And I am one of the only people in the building because nobody is around pretty much at this time. Everybody's out of here by 5 or 6 p.m. But I'm on campus from until 8 or 9 p.m. So if you ever need to pick up the phone and call me directly, you can pretty much guarantee that I'll be here at my desk to answer, to speak to you personally. Sometimes I wander away from my desk, but yeah, these are my hours. Okay. Um, Here, let me go back to the main list of things. The 2 people who are with us, Ciante and Chris, are you guys registered over at McGraw-Hill? Yes, no, maybe so? Yes? Okay, awesome. Here, let me show just a quick thing, what it looks like. So you have these weekly readings, and they're organized by week. And let me go into the student view so you can see what it looks like on your end. Okay. And they're all neatly organized by week. And I do encourage you to go through the readings. I shouldn't admit this, but can you succeed in this class without doing the readings? Yeah, but it doesn't hurt to do the readings. Okay, and they're typically short. So at first it looks like, oh wow, look at all these chapters. But if you click on one of them, for example, let's look at this guy here. You will see that they're not terribly long. Okay, they're pictures. The stuff in green you can always ignore, even if it has like a thought question or a suggested activity. You can ignore whatever's in green. I'm fine with some skimming or reading for gist, right? So coming away with the main ideas. That's what's most important to me. So yeah, please do the readings if you can. But it's sort of on an honor system because I have no way to check if you're doing the readings or not. I do try to cover as much pertinent information in these lectures as I can because I know that not everybody does the reading. So I try to uh, help make up for that. But you can, again, there's a lot of general information about writing. So if you're looking to improve your writing, you're certainly not going to hurt yourself by doing the reading. And again, they're pretty short. Okay. So there's McGraw-Hill. What else do I have to cover? Um, I think that's it. Oh, week one. Okay, so we got 3 graded activities in week one. We're going to talk about the 2 main guys in a bit. Okay, this first discussion activity, which requires a bit of writing on your part. It's not terribly difficult. We'll go over what this assignment is. And then the main assignment that's due on Sunday. Please note, though, that this first discussion, right, it ends on November 1st. What is today's date? The 29th? So that means tomorrow's the 30th. Thursday's Thanksgiving. I mean, actually, it should be a day earlier. It should be October 31st, but because week one, I sometimes have stragglers. This is why the turnout for the lectures is sometimes poor in week one, because not everybody treats Monday as the true start day. They don't really get into gear until Tuesday. Maybe they don't even really look at things until Wednesday and start moving, and then they get surprised when they see that there's something that's due on Wednesday. So for this week only, I've extended this activity all the way until Friday. So please take advantage of it. Again, we're going to go into more detail about what this activity requires. And then you have this guy, which we're going to talk about in detail as well, that's due on Sunday. You have a grammar quiz. You have one in week one and week three. Here's the awesome thing, though. You can take this quiz up to 10 times. Because here's the thing. The first time you take it, you're probably going to bomb. You're probably going to get a score that's like 30 or 40, and you're going to be depressed, but you have 9 more chances. And you can absolutely lift this grade up into the high B or even A range if you pay attention to the explanations for why you got questions wrong. So you take the quiz one time. I wish I could show this in real time, what it looks like, but I can't do that. Um, when you take the quiz and you get your first grade, you will see the answers you got wrong with detailed explanations about why the answer is wrong and what the correct answer is and why it's correct. And that's the secret to doing well. Last month, I had a student who told me the first time he took it, he got like a 45. Second time he took it, it went up to like 60 or 70. Eventually, he got it to a perfect 100. Okay, taking it, I think, a total of 4 times. So he didn't even need all 10 opportunities. Please don't forget about this, because I have students from last month who still haven't completed either the week one or week three grammar quiz. I know it seems frightening because not everybody is a grammarian, but you have 10 opportunities to increase your grade. Okay, so take advantage of it. And you don't have to worry that, let's say on try number 8, you got an 88, but then on attempts 9 and 10, you scored lower. No, it keeps the highest score that you recorded. So you don't have to worry about, oh gosh, I better stop, because it's not a game show where you have to either, it's not 21, right? Hit or stay. You can keep going all the way up until the 10 times, and you don't have to worry about screwing up an earlier good score. Okay, so don't forget about that. Ciante says, so good grade on the grammar test is due by Sunday. No, this one's actually open all month. You can see November 24th. Yeah, you have all month to take your 10 attempts. In week 3, I know we're not in week 3 yet, but you have the same thing, basically. Okay, another grammar check-in. I don't know. Sometimes I think maybe I could cover some of the things that are covered in the grammar check-in, but I know that grammar, even if I only spend 5 minutes on it, sometimes bores students to tears. I'll have to get some feedback on whether that would be helpful or not. Okay, let me get back to some of this introductory stuff. Again, that's not me. Course policies and tips we'll talk about. Oh, the easiest way to get in touch with me, okay, is to use the FSO functions, the message functions, right? The FSO messaging system, I think, premiered like 2 or 3 years ago. And since then, I receive very few emails. I do try to check email every day, but I get so accustomed to looking for messages here that if I forget to check email, I might not see. I mean, I think of email as extraordinary because I'm old enough to remember when it first appeared. It was amazing. I mean, I can compose a short message or letter and it gets sent to someone instantaneously. But I know for people, I assume just about everybody in this class is much younger than I am. I'm 48. So for younger people, they see email as like old school, like really old school. Like people don't like email. They'd much rather text or post a Facebook update, or in the case of this class, use the messaging function. Yeah, please use the messaging function. That's the quickest way to get in touch with me. Um, Again, I'm always kind of stunned when I see a traditional email come from a student, which I do answer, of course, but sometimes it takes me longer to get to those because I'm so used to seeing messages come this way. Okay. Um, okay, Chris, you're 30. Yeah, we have all age ranges. I'd say the typical age is maybe mid to late 20s, but we have people in their 30s, sometimes in their 40s or older, people coming back to school. Especially online. Online, there's a greater variety of ages because obviously our online students have full responsibilities, family, job. Sometimes job is plural. They're working two jobs and going to school, which is a Herculean task. You have my respect if you can do that. I've definitely juggled lots of different things in life. I think at one point I was working three jobs at once, so I know what it's like to burn the candle at both ends. And the students who are here in Orlando, they tend to be more traditional aged. Like by traditional, I mean like going away to college age, 19, 20, 21, around there. Okay, yeah, Chris, you were in the Army. We do have a number of people who served, right, and they use their benefits to enroll. Sometimes we even have military members who are currently enrolled and serving overseas, but they're taking classes at the same time. So yeah, we have a lot of interesting stories from our students. Okay, let's see. So course structure materials, week one, we'll get to that. APA, we're going to really just show how to create an APA reference because that's all you need to know for this week. For this week, the only thing you need to worry about APA is how to create a reference, and I'll show how to do that. I'll do that in real time. First, though, if you can, I'll let you read the quotation and the statistic on your own. Why do you have to take English at full sail? I actually don't think I have to make this argument. Not everybody's crazy about English, of course. I get that. I was an English major, but I am not here to convert you into becoming big fans of English. This is obviously a much different kind of English class. You're not going to be reading Shakespeare or poetry or decoding symbols. It's a much more practical course, and that's where my focus is, just making sure that hopefully you have the skills to move forward because writing does not disappear once English class is over. All of your classes here at Full Sail will have writing components to either a greater or lesser degree. So we're trying to get you in shape for that. And I think, when you look at the quotes and the statistic, I don't even really need these things because I think everybody knows that the importance in being able to communicate, both in writing and speech, is important. I always say, show me a successful person who can't write or speak. I mean, I guess you could search high and low for an exception to the rule, someone who won the lottery or someone who just lucked into a career where they made lots of money, but they're not terribly um, well versed, right? But I think people know that there's like a correlation between people who can write and speak well and overall success. Um, so even though, and when students do come in with maybe, why do I have to take this class? I'm here to study digital cinematography. I'm here to study recording arts, English. Why am I taking that? I don't think I really have to make the case. Again, I think if students come in with a little bit of hesitation, it's usually because they took a prior class um, where they were made to feel lesser, or basically their previous English classes weren't the greatest experience. Maybe they had a teacher who made them feel small and stupid. Um, Maybe they just got a message early on that, oh, well, I can't write, so I might as well just pack it in. Writing is not a born skill. Anybody who tells you that is lying. Um, yeah, anybody can improve their writing greatly. It does take some effort. Even in 4 weeks, we can't do everything, but anybody can transform their ability to write with a little bit of concentration and effort. And again, I think people do understand the importance of writing because, again, people who have had bad experiences in the past, or maybe they've been out of school for a number of years, so they feel anxious, like returning to school, and how is my writing going to be judged? And I understand that anxiety. Um, but again, I do think people understand the importance of being able to write well. Um, you do encounter writing all the time, whether it's in business letters that are sent to you or things that you read as part of a job or, um, you know, read the sports page or a feature article in whatever your field is, film or music or mobile app design. You're surrounded by writing, and I think that yeah, people can recognize like this person can write and this person can write well. Um, and you can get to those same heights if you wish. Okay, I only have you for 4 weeks, but I'll try to give you the most specific feedback that I can. Chris says, I'm not too good at English. Yeah, don't worry. I mean, my biggest piece of advice, by the way, few students take it, is the to read more. The irony is that people are reading more than at any point in human history, thanks to the internet and social media. But what they're reading isn't always the greatest models. And again, I'm not trying to be the fuddy-duddy who looks down on social media or Facebook or Twitter. I mean, I get it, right? There are texting conventions. There are, you don't maybe worry so much about grammar or correctness when you're just typing into a discussion thread online where people are having, a passionate discussion about something. Um, but if you can at least get in the habit of once per week reading something that is publishable quality, not asking you have to read a whole novel. No, just read something that's written by someone who is a paid writer. Okay, so if you're into sports, read a sports story. If you're into music, read a feature article on a band that you like or an artist that you admire. Because if you can get in the habit of at least reading one publishable quality piece of writing per week, the rules of writing kind of soak into you just through a sort of osmosis. I didn't learn to write by studying grammar guides. That's dull as I can't imagine anything more dull than that. I largely learned to write because I spent so much time reading. Right, when you read again and again and again, you just you create the sorts of sentences that you've been reading all your life. But if you don't read very much, it's difficult to create those sentences because you haven't been coming face to face with them all your life. Does that make sense? I hope. Um, okay, so some basic course policies. And this is the official late work policy. Please note that there are due dates, but if you don't get something completed by the due date, you still should hand it in. Okay, there's a 5 point per day deduction for late work. It's not deducted from the assignment itself; it's deducted from your professionalism grade. But 5 points, I mean, it's not so much, right? So if you have to hand in something a day late, a 5 point deduction is not the end of the world. This final thing where it says late work submitted with documentation for an emergency, except I, do, I don't want to deal with like doctor's notes, and I'm pretty easygoing in the sense that as long as you don't ask for an extension at the final moment, it's 11 p.m. before the midnight deadline, and you're sending me an email that I'm not going to see because if work is due on Sunday, those are my off days, so I'm probably not going to see your 11 p.m. Email. But if you let me know in advance, let's say on Friday, hey, I know I'm going to be working double shifts all weekend. I could really use the extra day. I'll say, fine, you can have it. I'm pretty good with that. Okay. But yeah, I don't really want to see documentation, even though that's the official policy. Just let me know with some advance notice that you could use an extra day or two, and I'll probably be happy to give it. Okay. Um, yeah, this slide is just about, I kind of mentioned earlier that for some students, English class is scary, and it's scary because it can feel awkward. The thing about math class is if you understand the math concept, whether it's simple addition or subtraction, or it's something slightly more complicated like the Pythagorean theorem or the quadratic equation, if you understand the equation, you can plug in the numbers, you can get the right answer, it's the right answer, and your instructor will verify it's the right answer and you get a good grade. English class doesn't work that way, right? It feels incredibly subjective. It feels like there's one person, me, the instructor, who is like sitting as an all-knowing judge looking at your work, assigning a grade to it. In some ways, that's true. I do have to look at your work and assign a grade to it. But I am aware that it is frustrating and awkward for lots of students. Again, we don't have an English major. We have a creative writing major. So that's probably the closest we come. But most students aren't here. We do have creative writing students, of course, but most students aren't here specifically to study English. We're aware of that as instructors, okay? So that's why the focus of this class is not the reading of literature. It's not the study of literature. It's just getting you to write. and us as instructors looking at what you've written and giving you feedback on the writing. By the way, something I kind of forgot to mention is if you look at the list of courses, okay, or the list of activities, there are a lot of gimme points. So, for example, professionalism. This is a month-long grade. It's worth 10% of your overall grade. Um, I really hope that everybody gets 100 because I don't like to take off professionalism points unless I have to. Again, if late work comes in, there's a 5 point deduction. If someone does something really egregious or terrible, curses out me or a fellow student, there could be deductions. But otherwise, I don't really want to touch this professionalism score. So that could be 10% of your grade. That's an A. That's in your back pocket. Again, if you take the 2 grammar quizzes and take full advantage of the 10 attempts you get to have, making sure that you read through the explanations of why you got questions wrong so that when you see similar questions when you retake the test, you can hopefully get them correct. That should be another 10%, 5% for each of the 2 quizzes. That's in your back pocket. Um, there's 20% right there that can be an A. And I say this because sometimes students panic when they get their grade on the first assignment, and some students are disappointed if it's a B. Some students are disappointed if it's a C. Obviously, students don't like to see grades even lower than that. But there's no single grade can torpedo your overall progress in the course. It is possible to bomb a single assignment and still do very well in the class because there are so many other activities that can make up for it. Okay. So that's another thing too, is that I only have you for 4 weeks, but there's a progression, okay, from week to week, and hopefully you will make some progression as we move through these 4 weeks this month that I have you for. So yeah, don't panic early on about any one particular grade. You have lots of activities to make up for it. Um, Okay. So yeah, this is what we mean here by lean into the awkwardness. Except that it's going to maybe at times feel frustrating and awkward, especially if you're a little bit unsure of your English skills, your writing skills. You're not alone. Okay. Pretty much every student is feeling that way. If you have any technical problems, jot down this number. Okay. FSO support. They're actually just upstairs from me. I'm in a 2-level building, and sometimes I just walk upstairs and ask the FSO support people for help. So I rely on them. You should too for anything technical, because I probably won't be able to help you if there's a specific technical issue. Okay, but FSO support can, and it doesn't have to be FSO related. So if you're not sure how a certain function in Microsoft Word works, or something in general about your computer, these guys and gals can probably help because, again, it's technical help in general. Yes, there are specific experts on FSO, the platform we use, but you can turn to them with any of their questions and they'll be able to help. Chris says, I don't mean to go off subject, but when will it be safe to update my Mac? Yeah, I got an. So, do you see the same message that I do? This thing here, please do not upgrade your MacBook. If you click on this link, it says click here for more details. They explain that it could be weeks, it could be months. Okay. The issue is that not all of your installed programs, if you already have your MacBook. Chris, are you a campus student? Or have you taken English in the past here at Full Sail? Yeah, I mean, you don't have to answer if you don't want to, but campus students get their MacBooks right away. But online students, I believe, get it in month 4, which is usually around the time that they take English for the first time. So, yeah, if this is your first go through English and this is month 4 for you, you'll probably receive your MacBook this month, later in the month, unless things have changed. But yeah, the MacBook comes with a bunch of software installed. Depending on your degree program, you might have specific software installed that's relevant to that. So if you're a recording arts person or a music production person, you might have, oh gosh, what's that thing? Is it Pro Tools? It's for music. Um, and yeah, some of these software may not mesh well with the MacBook operating system update. So just be patient. By the way, when you do upgrade to a new operating system, it's not like that big of a deal. it's not that much cooler or anything. So yeah, be patient. Okay. I'm going to skip past this because we've kind of talked about this. Every week there will be a lecture, Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. There are readings, which we already looked at in the McGraw-Hill thing. Um, there's actually not a weekly discussion every week, but there are for 2 of the weeks, including this very first week. And there's always a major kind of assignment that's due on Sunday. So here's just another kind of quick overview of what the month looks like week to week. We've already talked about the textbook. Let's get right into the week 1 assignments. Okay, so the very first assignment that's up, again, it's supposed to be due on Wednesday, but I'm extending it to Friday because I get such terrible turn-in rates on week 1, is this guy here, the 1.3 activity, a discussion, a tale of 2 bios. Okay, so if I quickly go into preview mode here, the gist of the assignment is very, very simple. You're going to write your own bio, okay, a short bio, but you're going to write it twice. You're going to write 2 versions of the bio. The first version is going to be more down to earth, okay? It's a bio that's aimed at your peers, like your classmates, your friends, your acquaintances. This might be a kind of bio that you would post maybe on a social media account. So you will write a 50 to 150 word bio, and I'm going to give an example of what this looks like in a moment. You're going to label it for peers, okay? You're going to then rewrite that bio, but do so for a professional audience, okay? So this is like a bio that you would have on a professional website, or maybe it would be included in materials that you send out when you're, for example, interviewing for jobs. So one biography, it's just a short paragraph, is written for people you know well, and it's going to be in first person, okay? So you can use I. Version 2 is going to be in third person, and it's a professional bio. So let me give an example of what this looks like. Do I have it open? No, actually, that comes later. Uh, Here, let me go into stuff. No, here it is. Okay. There we go. Actually, let me bump this one down. We'll take a look at this later. Okay. So if I were following the instructions, I would have to label this one for peers, right? And the instructions for the other one should be labeled for professionals. So let me do that real quickly. Now, I'm going to quickly read this out loud. I know reading out loud isn't the most thrilling thing in the world, but as I'm reading, and maybe it's too obvious a question, but feel free to type in the chat. What are the clear signs that this is for peers, right? So for friends, for acquaintances, for family. Like, what are whether it's word choice, whether it's style, whether it's voice, what are some things that are just a dead giveaway in this paragraph that this is, yeah, a down to earth bio written for um, like minded friends and family. Okay, so this one reads, "Hello, campers. My name is David. I am a teacher. I've been here at Full Sail for nearly 5 years. I wrote this a year ago, so I should say 6+ years now. And before this, I bounced around a lot. I was born in Chicagoland, but I've also lived in, take a deep breath, Galesburg, Illinois, Tuscaloosa, Alabama, Athens, Ohio, Palma de Mallorca, Spain, Columbia, Missouri, and now Orlando, Florida. My hobbies include competitive knitting, matzo ball juggling, and yelling at small children." Okay, that last part is a jest. "I'm passionate about all things writing related. I earned my bachelor's degree in English, fiction writing emphasis from Knox College, and I earned a master's degree, again English, creative writing, from Ohio University. I even started working on a doctoral degree, a PhD. But then my mother said, 'You're 35 and still in school?' And so I entered the workforce. In my spare time, I play piano, marathon watch movies and television shows, and read lots of books. Serious stuff like literary fiction and political stuff, but my guilty pleasure is page turners, the Twilight series, the occasional sci-fi or fantasy novel, stuff like that. Oh, and I watch lots of sports. I'm a lifelong Chicago Cubs fan, and I used to follow the NFL, but now I know nothing about that league because I only watch college football." So again, maybe the question is too obvious, but what are the sort of obvious giveaways that this is? And note, it's grammatically perfect. I can attest to that, by the way. It's flawlessly written from a grammatical perspective. But what are the obvious signs here that this is kind of a friendly, fun? Again, it follows the rules of grammar. It's professionally, I mean, it's accurately written, but it's a more it's again the kind of bio I might put on a social media account or on a fun website, not a professional. Um, Anything that stands out to you, or is that too easy a question? Because this is what you're going to have to do, right? You're going to have to write 2 paragraphs. And by the way, my paragraph is very long. The instructions say it has to be what, between 50 and 150 words. To be honest, 50 is really short. um, because I love to hear myself speak. This one's, gosh, how long is this? Let's see. Tools, word count, 218 words. Okay, because I'm not getting responses in the chat. Maybe the question is too obvious, right? Things like hello campers, even the use of an exclamation point. That's not typical in professional writing because that's a kind of flamboyant sort of punctuation. There's a conversational style that you can hear, right? So when I interrupt this sentence here and say, take a deep breath, or here I say, oh, right? That's kind of an exclamation that people say in speech, but not typically so much on the page, though here it's fine because it, again, fits with the more casual tone. Yeah, Chris, it's like talking to your friends. Again, I do pay attention to the rules of grammar, though. It's, I think, challenging to write in a way that sounds like you're talking out loud, but actually reads clean. In some ways, you have to be in fuller command of your abilities to do so. But yeah, there are other things. Like I include a joke, right? Maybe you think it's funny, maybe you think it's completely unfunny, but yeah, I'm not really into knitting, nor do I spend my free time yelling at small children. It's just a little joke. So yeah, there are lots of touches here, and maybe the most obvious is that I'm using first person, okay, which is any form of the word I, me, my, mine. My name is David. I am a teacher. So you'll have to do the same thing. You don't have to write this much, of course, but you have to write a bio about yourself that is written in that kind of more down to earth style. Then you have to do the same thing, but write a professional bio. And here you don't get to use I. You don't get to use first person. So I don't say I have been teaching. I say David. Okay. I refer to myself by my name. So this one's so short, I'll read this one out loud as well. It says, David Sussman has been teaching college level courses for nearly 20 years. He holds degrees in creative writing from Knox College and Ohio University. Previous to coming to Full Sail, David has taught at institutions in Alabama, Illinois, and Missouri. Currently, David teaches English composition at Full Sail University in Orlando, Florida. He is a committed educator who is passionate about writing. In his free time, David enjoys piano, viewing films, reading books, and watching his 2 favorite sports, Major League Baseball and college football. Notice it's the same information. Okay, but while this one is, yeah, friendlier, makes some attempts at humor, tries to use more conversational language, this one is straightforward, professional, but it covers the exact same information. But yeah, I don't go into as much detail. Like a professional audience wouldn't care what my favorite team is, right? So I don't bother to. This gets reduced to my 2 favorite sports, baseball and college football. Okay. Or here I list the types of books that I read. Whereas here I just, again, I keep it straight and to the point. You don't have to have such a drastic difference. Like, certainly you don't have to try to be jokey or funny or, I mean, write in a voice and a style that's natural to you. And you don't have to write 200 words. Technically, I've gone over the word limit. Um, this is my example, but if you look at the activity itself, you have another example. So this guy right here, or actually this one right here, okay? 2 bios example. And this is written by another instructor. And you can see her 2 paragraphs are kind of equal length. So every single activity comes with examples. So if you're ever confused, if I don't cover something in a lecture clearly enough for you, you can always just scroll down to the bottom of the activity and click on the example to get the gist. Okay, so she's doing the same thing. Here's her paragraph aimed at peers. She's using first person. Again, even punctuation wise, that's not usually acceptable in professional or formal writing. But again, she's speaking just conversationally. She's following the rules of grammar. It's professionally written, or maybe I shouldn't use the word professionally written. It's well written. Okay. And then here she covers the exact same information, but does so in third person. Okay. So you have to do the same thing. And then when you're ready, when you've written your 2 paragraphs, you simply copy them and go to the discussion board. Okay. And yeah, please paste your 2 paragraphs directly on the board. Don't upload your Microsoft Word document, because probably nobody's going to look at it, because that's an extra step of having to click on your document and open it. It's much easier if it's right there on the page. Let's see. Actually, I think I have to go in a different way. Let's see. Bear with me, please. Actually, let's go in the last month. Week 1. I'm trying to. Okay, so here we go. So, right, you just put your 2 paragraphs. So here's a student, here's his for peers paragraph, here's his for professional paragraph. And once you post your 2 paragraphs to the board, you're almost done, but you have to make sure that you respond to at least one of your classmates. In the instructions, I believe it says, yeah, so you post both versions, both bios, to the discussion board, and then respond to at least one of your classmates. 100 words minimum. Okay, so be careful of that. Sometimes students fall shy of that. Use the RISE model. You've been introduced to the RISE model in previous classes. If you can't if you can't remember the RISE model, that's fine. But find a way to truly engage with what the student has written. Okay. Um, the big issue I see is people write, sometimes they meet the 100 words and their response is perfectly polite and friendly and it's awesome in lots of ways, except that it doesn't really focus on the 2 bios that they've written. Um, so this is your chance to make suggestions, to point things out. Obviously, if you see something that's incorrect, there will be, for example, students who either, because they don't read the instructions completely or they skim through it. I'm guilty of that too sometimes, where I just skim through things so quickly that I think I understand what it's saying, but I don't. Or they haven't watched the lecture. They'll, for example, have 2 paragraphs written in first person, or 2 paragraphs written in third person. So if you see obvious errors like that, take the time to point that out. And just, you can use your gut. Okay, read both paragraphs and give honest feedback on what they've written. um, Too often people will point out like, oh, you're into video games, I love video games too, and I'm okay with some of that, but the response should push beyond that. Okay. um, so make sure that you do focus a good deal of your attention on what the person has actually written, because again, I don't like to take off points, but yeah, that's a big issue that I see. Yeah, Chris, third person is like a narrator. Okay, so first person. Here, let me get rid of this. Right. So first person is I, me, my, mine. Um, there's also first person plural, which is the we form. Occasionally I'll see a student write we, but that's really awkward, because why would you use we if you're the. How many people are writing? It should be just you. Second person. Anybody know what second person is? Anybody want to show off their knowledge? No. Ciante says they. That's third person. Second person is you. And third person is he, she, it, or the plural form, they, them, there. Okay. So you don't have to, second person is not going to come into play for this assignment. You just have to remember that your first bio, the more down to earth paragraph, where you talk about yourself has to be written in the I form, right? My name is David. I am a teacher. And for the other paragraph, it can seem awkward, but it's not that awkward. I've had to write professional bios. I have a bio that's very similar to this, actually, that's somewhere on the Full Sail site. But yeah, referring to yourself in third person, like Chris said, like a narrator. Okay. The other assignment we have to talk about is the one that's due on Sunday. Does everybody understand the Tail 2 BIOS? I think I spent maybe too much time on it because it's not really that difficult to grasp. We all know what we're doing there, yes? 2 paragraphs, 1 response to a classmate. Okay, awesome. The main assignment that's due for Sunday is not terribly difficult either, because it's sort of like we're getting you prepared for the more difficult. I shouldn't say more difficult, but we're working step by step. So week 1, you're going to write those 2 bios. That's not a terribly difficult task. And then the assignment for Sundays, you're going to choose one of the articles from this list. Okay. We haven't covered everybody's possible field of study here at Full Sail, but we've tried to come up with 5 different things that hopefully interest you. So here's one about finding your passion in terms of choosing a career. The rest of these are, here's an article on video games. Here's an article on movies. Here's an article on Harry Potter, the books. And here's an article on music. Okay, so if you're here to study something music related, you maybe will choose the music article. You don't have to. You can choose whatever article you like, but you'll choose one. My advice is to go through them, and you don't have to read every single one, but maybe skim. I don't want to scare people away, but I think this first one is the most difficult, because it's a bit longer and it's a bit more nuanced in what it has to say. Some students like that challenge, but yeah, choose an article that you can get into, because you're going to be working with it all month. So keep that in mind too. Okay, so the article you choose. I mean, could you choose switch? Yeah, maybe, but choose carefully. Okay, so if you're into video games, maybe you should pick this one. If you're into movies, maybe this one. And all you have to do is, so you'll choose an article. So let's look at this one here. It's about movies. Okay. And your sole task is to summarize the article. Okay. You have to write I think it's a 300 to 400 word summary. Let's see. Summary length 300 to 400 words. Okay. Use Microsoft Word. Use 12-point Times New Roman font, double spaced. I'll try to show what this. Actually, you have an example to look at. Again, every activity comes with examples. And at the very end, you'll have an APA reference. Now, I just threw a lot of things at you. So let's look at the example. Okay. So again, you have an example to study. There it is. Okay. So your summary should look something like this. Jane Smith is not the real student's name. We're just protecting the anonymity here. But you can see she's using Times New Roman, 12-point font. Her summary is double spaced. Okay. Notice she's following other typical conventions of writing. So the first sentence of a new paragraph gets indented 1 tab. And this is really easy to do. So here, let me open up a blank document. I won't save this. Okay, new document. The simplest thing to do is right from the get-go, Times New Roman, 12. Okay. And also set up double spacing. So the up-down arrow here is the spacing. So we change from 1.0 to 2.0. And you'll type your name. What else do they have? English composition, and then the name of the activity. Okay. Composition. 0.5. Pop culture bites. Okay, and then you'll have a title, probably summary of article title. And yes, you should put the names of articles in quotation marks. Okay. Center it. put your cursor right after it, hit enter just once, and we're going to start on the left side. So we use this guy here. The opening sentence of a new paragraph needs to be indented. So you hit the tab key on the left side of your keyboard just once, and you can start typing your summary. Now I'm going to fill up a bunch of space, so I'm actually going to copy this. When you get to the end of a sentence, you type your period, you hit your space bar twice. 1, 2, keep going. 1, 2, keep going. And I know that this seems obvious, but when you set up double spacing, it will automatically wrap around. 90% of you know this, but there are students who aren't super familiar with Microsoft Word. And so what they do is they don't truly have it double spaced. And they kind of treat Microsoft Word like a typewriter. Probably none of you can remember actual typewriters. I'm old enough that I actually took a typing class in high school on an electric typewriter. And yeah, when you got near the end of the page, you had to manually hit the return, the carriage, and start anew. So yeah, sometimes students will single space and they'll force it to look double spaced. And that creates all sorts of problems. So yeah, double spaced from the get-go. Okay. Here, I'm going to fill up a bunch of space because I want to make it look like I've typed an entire paragraph. Okay, so let's say that's a paragraph. When you get to the end of the paragraph, hit enter just once. Hit tab to indent and keep going. Indent, keep going. Now, whenever your summary ends, then you will create an ending reference. Okay. Now I'm going to show how to create references, but again, you could study the example. And this, by the way, we try to show good examples, but not perfect examples. So technically, yeah, she doesn't need this much space here, but the rest of it looks fine. But here's her reference. So you can study her reference, or you can study the example that I'm going to show you in just a moment, or you can watch me as I create a reference in real time, which I'll do in just a moment. But these are the basics, okay? So if you need to go back and watch the recording of this just to get down these basics, like how to set up the basic format. But what's more important is what you're going to actually put here, which is the summary. Okay, so you choose one of those 5 articles, and your task is to summarize. Okay, 300 to 400 words. 300 words is approximately 1 page. 400 words is about a page and a half. So we're really talking about, yeah, a little over a page. Okay. So what is a summary? Probably you do have a general familiarity with what that word means, but here's some quick tips on how to handle the summary. Here it is, summary writing tips, do's and don'ts. Let's start with the do's. Looks like dos, but this is grammatically incorrect because it's not possessive, it's plural, so do's. Do include the author's name early on, as well as the author's overall argument or thesis. Maybe you've heard that word before, thesis. I'm not going to make a big deal about the word, but all articles can be summarized down to a single sentence even. Okay, so what is the author's overall argument? Usually it's going to appear early on. So those of you who choose the movie article, I can tell you that, like, this is an introduction paragraph. Summer movie season is fast approaching, or well underway, depending on how you look at things. The Fate of the Furious may have set box office records, but critical consensus is, and then he goes on, right? And he's setting up this opening paragraph to talk about how in the coming months we'll see sequels to franchises such as Pirates of the Caribbean, Transformers, and Cars. This provides more than enough fodder for laments about how Hollywood is out of ideas. So he's setting up the kind of, this is his intro, to set up this idea that we've all heard this complaint, right? That Hollywood is just churning out generic film after film after film, not always caring very much about the quality. And that this has been a popular argument, okay? That Hollywood just, instead of coming up with fresh, brand new ideas for films, they keep going to endless sequels, endless franchises, etc. But his main argument actually appears here. Okay, so typically the gist of what the overall article is about, or the author's main stance, is going to appear early on. Here he writes, but what if we took a different approach? What if we viewed the Hollywood franchise era in which we live as an opportunity to reflect on the passage of time? Right? There's his thesis. That's his main idea. He's going to spend the rest of the article trying to support this idea. Instead of just saying, sequels, franchises, Hollywood is out of ideas, he's going to say, maybe we need to look at these movies differently. Okay? And he's going to give various examples. So let me get back to my do's and don'ts. So do include the author's name early on and the author's overall argument or thesis. Do include the article's most important main points or examples. Okay? Because your goal here is to provide an accurate, concise overview of the article. So much so that a perfect stranger should be able to read your summary and understand what the article is about. Write in third person, so there's no I for this assignment. Okay? And write in present tense. The article exists now. Even if it was published 2 or 3 years ago, it still exists. So I give some examples of that. The author's main argument is, Smith's next point is that, okay, so we're using present tense verbs. Discuss the article's ideas in your own words. So try not to borrow exact wording from the text. I added this one because last month I saw a lot of people who are taking way too much language from the original article. The summary is your summary. Okay, you're providing a concise overview to the article you just read. I'm sorry if this is a little bit confusing, but I'm going to open up another document. Overall, lots of pieces of writing, they have some sort of introduction, okay, which is typically the first paragraph, sometimes the first 2 paragraphs. And then there are supporting points. Okay? It's not just one supporting point. There's several supporting points. There might be 3 or 4 or even 5. And then ultimately there's some sort of conclusion. Okay? Again, I think a lot of you know this, right? Some sort of introduction or beginning, some sort of conclusion or ending, and then in between is the meat, the body. Okay? So whatever of the 5 articles you choose, they're going to follow this structure. And your task is to capture this, okay? And I'll come back to this because I'll even give a suggested framework you can follow, or maybe we'll take a quick look at the example, okay? But here's the list of things not to do, the don'ts. Do not include an exhaustive paraphrase of every single sentence or every idea. In other words, avoid giving a thorough walkthrough of the entire article. I saw this last month too, where students were clearly going, okay, so this paragraph says summer is movie season is fast approaching, so they find a way to say that, and then they say films like The Fate and the Furious and Pirates of the Caribbean. They're basically going almost, maybe not every single sentence, but they're doing almost a nearly paragraph by paragraph walkthrough of the entire article. That's not a summary, okay? A summary is reducing the article to its overall arguments and its most important main points, okay? At the same time, don't just cherry pick one interesting point and ignore the rest, because a summary is about coverage. Do not include your own opinions on the issue. Do not evaluate the author's ideas. You'll do that in week 2. Next week, you get to respond to the article. This week, I just want you to summarize it because I want you to show me not only that you have the skill to summarize, but also to show me that you understand the article. Do not quote from the article. Okay, this is, again, it's a short summary, so it should be entirely in your own words. So if we look at the example that's included in the activity, we don't include in one of the 5 articles that you'll choose from, because if we did, then people would just maybe imitate or borrow ideas from it. But here's a summary to a completely different article about the sitcom The Big Bang Theory. So summary of The Big Bang Theory is better at portraying geekdom than haters admit. And so if you learn best through example, open up this example and try to do the same thing. She mentions the author early on. That's in my list of do's. Okay, include the author's name early on, as well as the author's overall argument. If we look at the example, that's what she does. Noel Murray's article is a response to the recent conversation surrounding the Big Bang Theory and its cancellation. His argument is that the show, despite its faults, generally transcends the stereotypes upon which it was built, particularly in terms of normalizing nerd culture. and gender representation. Okay. So yeah, you'll try to do something similar. Mention the author of the article you chose and try to give the gist of what it's about. And then you spend time describing the article's most important points. Okay. Again, it's not that you have to cover the entire article and everything that says. Can you, when you choose your article, identify the 3 or 4 biggest ideas in the article? Okay. That's your task here. And actually, you can follow this framework. So you'll probably have a short introduction where, again, you mention the author and explain the article's main arguments. Okay. And then you'll identify those 3, 4, or more main points or most interesting points or the things that stood out to you as most important, and you'll describe them. Oops. In your own words. Okay. And then if you can, you'll have maybe a short conclusion. Again, you can rely on the information I'm giving you in this lecture, or you can kind of study the example. Okay. Yeah, take the time to, if you can, read the example as a whole, just to get a feel for, oh, okay, this is what a summary looks and sounds like. And this assignment is due on Sunday. Okay. The final thing I want to cover is at the very end of your summary, you have to include an APA reference. So I have a slide that shows, we've already covered all this, so I'm going to skip past all this. I got away from the slides. You can take a screenshot of this if you need to and just imitate this example. You can look at the provided essay and imitate that one. There's some small mistakes like the B in big, the B in bang, and the T in theory should be capitalized because the name of the show is a proper noun. But yes, APA has this weird rule where you capitalize the article just as you would a regular sentence. And to show you how simple this is, I found just a generic article already online. Here's a music review of the most recent Taylor Swift album, and we have everything we need. We have an author's name, we have a date, and we have a title. So this person's name is Jordan Sargent. So let's imagine that I've reached the end of my summary. Okay. So now I need to create my reference. Last name, Sargent, comma, first initial. Oh, you know what? The J on my keyboard doesn't work. We'll call him Frank. Okay. That's not really his name, but we'll do it for the case of this. Okay. So last name, first initial. Then in parentheses, the date. So that was what? 2019. August, and type out the full month. So none of this. Okay. I think it was 26. I'll double check. Ending parentheses, period. After each stage. So after the author's name, period. After the date, period. Okay. Then the article title. Here it's Taylor Swift's Lover shines in its quietest moments. So I'll actually just copy this. And match destination formatting. Now, I said that very few students remember this, but we capitalize just as we would a regular sentence. So the T in Taylor stays capitalized because that's her name. Same with the S in Swift. Same with the L in Lover because that's the name of the article. But all the other words get put in lowercase. This is quite different if you've ever done MLA, where you do capitalize every major word. Oops. But not APA. And it might look funky to you, right? Or if we look at the example in the slide, repeated antibiotic use alters gut's composition of beneficial microbes, study shows, right? Only the R is capitalized because that's what you do in a regular sentence. The first word receives initial capitalization, but every other word is lowercase, right? Looks really, really strange. But that's APA. That's how APA works. The only other thing we need to get here is the URL. put the words retrieved from first. There's no colon. I see that sometimes. Nope, just retrieve from. And okay, I always hate the hyperlink, so I'm going to get rid of that. Remove hyperlink. I have no idea why this. Why didn't it remove the hyperlink? I have no idea why this converted to single spacing. Oh no, it says it's double spaced. That's strange. Okay, it should be double spaced. And just like in this slide here, it's sort of the opposite of paragraphs. With paragraphs, you indent the first line of a new paragraph, but with references, the first line does not get indented, but if it goes to a second or third line, those lines do get indented. So all we have to do is put our cursor before that and drag this little guy over 1/2 inch. Okay. There's our summary. Excuse me, there's our reference. Okay. So pick, you can either take a screenshot here and just imitate that example. You can imitate the example here, or if you were following along with me now, you can do the same thing. Okay. But you have to do that with whatever article you choose. So very, very simple. And there are points to taken off if you don't include an APA reference. I try not to be too cruel, but yeah, if you don't include the reference at all, or if the entire summary is single spaced and it's one ginormous paragraph, yeah, again, try to study the example, take the information of the lecture, and try to make it look like this with an ending reference. Okay, so that's what I wanted to cover in this hour. So I'll take questions if you have them. If you don't have any questions, you are free to go enjoy the rest of your evening. I thank you so much for attending. I try to keep these to an hour. I think we went 2 minutes over. But we'll be here again next Tuesday. Same bat time, same bat channel at 7 p.m. I'm going to hang out for a bit for people who have questions. There, I got the hyperlink to be removed. You might notice in the example here, she does mention the publication name and italicize it. The rule is that anything from the internet, you don't need to include the publication, but it's not terrible if you do. So if I wanted to put, for example, Spin Magazine, you italicize the name of the publication. Okay, you can do so. But you don't have to. Ooh. There we go. Okay, so there's a reference. Easy peasy. You're welcome, everyone. If you have questions, feel free to ask. It looks like most people have left, so I will shut things down if people don't have questions. I'm going to stop the recording now for the people who are watching at home. Thanks so much for watching. I'm stopping the recording now.